It's official. The man who saw everything, who witnessed every backstabbing moment, every explosive confrontation, and every devastating betrayal at Gas Monkey Garage is finally ready to speak. Dennis Collins, the legendary car collector worth $30 million, Richard Rawlings' closest friend for over 2 decades, has just dropped the most nuclear-level exposé in automotive reality TV history. We're not talking about your typical workplace drama here. This is about 10 cast members whose departures didn't just hurt, they destroyed the very soul of what made Fast and Loud legendary. These weren't just employees walking away. These were calculated betrayals, explosive confrontations, and devastating power plays that left Dennis Collins, a man who's seen it all, absolutely furious. For years, Dennis stayed silent. He watched from the sidelines as his best friend Richard Rawlings got stabbed in the back repeatedly. He witnessed talented mechanics turn into bitter enemies. He saw the garage that built an empire slowly crumble from within. But now he's done being quiet. Here's what nobody saw coming. Dennis Collins didn't just hate these 10 departures, he's been secretly documenting everything. Every heated argument, every behind-the-scenes manipulation, every moment when loyalty died and greed took over. And what he's about to reveal will shatter everything you thought you knew about Fast and Loud. The automotive world is about to get rocked to its core. Because when someone with Dennis Collins' credibility and insider access finally breaks their silence, careers don't just get damaged, they get obliterated. We're talking about revelations so explosive that they could end friendships, destroy reputations, and expose the dark underbelly of reality TV that networks pray never sees daylight. This isn't gossip. This isn't speculation. This is the unfiltered truth from the one man who was there for every devastating moment, who watched his best friend's empire get torn apart by people he trusted most. Dennis Collins has receipts, and he's finally ready to use them. The 10 names he's about to expose, they thought they were untouchable. They thought their side of the story would never be challenged. They were dead wrong. Because Dennis Collins doesn't just remember what happened, he's got the evidence to prove it. If you're already hooked by this insanity, smash that hype button, because this story gets 10x more explosive. What we're about to reveal will change how you see every single episode of Fast and Loud forever. The betrayals run deeper than anyone imagined, and the truth is more twisted than any Hollywood script. You think you know what happened at Gas Monkey Garage? You don't know anything yet? But you're about to learn why Dennis Collins, the most loyal friend in the automotive world, finally reached his breaking point. And when a man like Dennis Collins says he hated watching these 10 departures, you better believe there's a story that will leave your jaw on the floor. The gloves are off, the silence is broken, and the automotive world will never be the same. Let's rewind to the beginning and understand exactly who Dennis Collins is, because his credibility in this explosive exposé isn't just important, it's everything. This isn't some disgruntled employee or bitter ex-cast member looking for revenge. This is a man who built a $30 million empire from pure passion, who broke legendary speed records, and who became Richard Rawlings' most trusted confidant long before the cameras ever started rolling. Dennis Collins wasn't born into wealth or handed his success on a silver platter. He started as a car-obsessed kid playing with toy cars in his childhood bedroom, dreaming of the day he could turn his passion into something real. That dream became reality when he got behind the wheel of a 1966 blue Ford Mustang in high school, a moment that ignited a fire that would burn for decades. The transformation from dreamy-eyed teenager to automotive mogul wasn't instant or easy. Dennis spent countless hours learning every aspect of the car business, from mechanical restoration to financial management. He understood that passion without business acumen leads to bankruptcy, while business without passion leads to soulless corporate mediocrity. Dennis found the perfect balance. After earning degrees in economics and finance from the University of Texas at Dallas, Dennis made a decision that would change his life forever. Instead of climbing the corporate ladder, he chose to bet everything on his automotive obsession. In 1984, he founded Collins Brothers Jeep, a shop that quickly became legendary for its expert Jeep restoration and conversion projects. But Dennis wasn't content with just one successful business. His entrepreneurial spirit and sharp eye for rare classics led him to build an empire that included Black Mountain Jeep conversions and a collection that would make billionaires jealous. We're talking about over 200 Austin Healys, including the very first Nash Healy ever made from 1,950. This wasn't just collecting, this was curating automotive history. The legendary friendship between Dennis Collins and Richard Rawlings began in the most authentic way possible through shared adrenaline and mutual respect. They met at a Harley-Davidson rally, two speed demons who instantly recognized something special in each other. Their friendship wasn't built on contracts or TV deals, it was forged in high-speed challenges and genuine camaraderie. The moment that cemented their legendary bond, the historic Cannonball Run record. Dennis and Richard climbed into a 1,999 Ferrari 550 Maranello and drove from New York to Los Angeles in a blistering 31 hours and 59 minutes. This wasn't just a road trip, this was a coast-to-coast, non-stop testament to their shared obsession with pushing limits and breaking barriers. This record-breaking run didn't just boost their reputations, it created an unbreakable bond between two men who understood that true friendship is tested at 150 miles per hour with everything on the line. When Richard's TV career exploded, Dennis was already there, not as a hanger-on or opportunist, but as a proven friend who had literally gone the distance. Dennis's credibility in the automotive world reached its peak when he earned a prestigious award at the Kuwait Concours d'Elegance for his perfect restoration of a 1,958 Austin Healey, two-seater nicknamed Goldie. Richard himself celebrated this achievement on Facebook, showing the world that their friendship transcended business. It was built on genuine admiration and respect. But here's what made Dennis's position at Gas Monkey Garage absolutely unique. He wasn't an employee caught in the daily grind of deadlines and drama. He wasn't dependent on the show for his livelihood or reputation. Dennis Collins was the ultimate insider-outsider, close enough to see everything, wealthy enough to speak freely, and loyal enough to stay silent when it mattered. This unique position gave Dennis a perspective that nobody else had. He could watch the politics unfold without being trapped in them. He could see the patterns of behavior that employees might miss because they were too close to the chaos. He witnessed every major decision, every heated argument, and every moment when loyalty was tested and found wanting. When Fast and Loud exploded into a cultural phenomenon, Dennis was there watching his best friend navigate the treacherous waters of reality TV fame. He saw how the cameras changed people, how success bred jealousy, and how the pressure to constantly deliver drama slowly poisoned relationships that had taken years to build. The warning signs were there from the beginning, and Dennis Collins saw them all. He watched as talented mechanics started viewing themselves as stars rather than craftsmen. He witnessed the subtle shift from collaborative teamwork to individual ambition. He saw how the promise of spin-off shows and personal fame began corrupting the very people Richard had trusted most. The early days of Fast and Loud were magical, according to Dennis. There was genuine camaraderie, shared passion for automotive excellence, and a family atmosphere that made the garage feel like home for everyone involved. But success has a way of revealing people's true character, and not everyone's character could withstand the test. Dennis watched as cast members began calculating their individual value versus their loyalty to the team. He saw private conversations where people discussed their market worth and personal brand potential. The language itself was a warning sign. When family members start talking like corporate executives, the family is already dying. The transformation was gradual but unmistakable. People who had once been grateful for opportunities began feeling entitled to more. Cast members who had learned their skills at Gas Monkey started believing they were self-made stars. The collaborative spirit that had built the show's success was slowly being replaced by individual ambition and competitive jealousy. But Dennis stayed loyal. He kept his observations to himself, believing that true friendship meant protecting Richard's business and reputation, even when others were actively working to undermine both. He watched betrayal after betrayal, departure after devastating departure, and kept his mouth shut because that's what real friends do. Until now. Because even the most loyal friend has a breaking point, and Dennis Collins has finally reached his. The 10 departures he's about to expose weren't just business decisions or creative differences, they were calculated betrayals that left permanent scars on both Gas Monkey Garage and the man who built it. But here's where it gets absolutely nuclear, and this is information that has never been revealed publicly until this moment. Dennis Collins didn't just watch these 10 devastating departures happen, he was actively trying to prevent them behind the scenes. What nobody knew, what the cameras never captured, was that Dennis was functioning as an unofficial mediator, desperately trying to save relationships that were already poisoned beyond repair. The shocking truth that will change everything you thought you knew. Aaron Kaufman's departure wasn't just about creative differences or wanting more freedom. According to Dennis Collins' explosive revelations, Aaron had been secretly negotiating his own TV deals for months before his dramatic exit, using Gas Monkey Garage's success as leverage while publicly pretending to be committed to the team. Dennis reveals that he personally witnessed Aaron taking meetings with network executives, not to discuss Gas Monkey projects, but to pitch his own show concepts. "I watched this kid that Richard had mentored and elevated become everything we hate about Hollywood," Dennis states, with barely contained fury. He was using Richard's garage, Richard's reputation, and Richard's connections to build his own empire while stabbing him in the back every single day. The evidence is devastating. Dennis claims he has documentation showing that Aaron was in advanced negotiations for shifting gears and other projects while still under contract with Gas Monkey, essentially building his exit strategy while collecting paychecks and pretending to be loyal. This wasn't a sudden decision based on creative frustration. This was a calculated business move disguised as artistic integrity. But the betrayal goes even deeper. Dennis reveals that Aaron wasn't working alone. He had been recruiting other Gas Monkey employees to join his new ventures, essentially building a competing team while still on Richard's payroll. He was like a virus, Dennis explains, infecting the whole garage with his disloyalty and turning Richard's own people against him. The recruitment operation was sophisticated and systematic, according to Dennis. Aaron would identify talented mechanics and support staff who were frustrated with their current roles or compensation, then privately approach them with promises of better opportunities in his future projects. He was essentially conducting job interviews for his competing business while still being paid by Gas Monkey. Dennis reveals that Aaron had created detailed organizational charts for his future ventures, complete with specific roles for current Gas Monkey employees. He had it all planned out, Dennis explains with disgust. He knew exactly who he wanted to steal, what their weaknesses were, and how to convince them to betray Richard. It was corporate espionage disguised as friendship. The most shocking revelation, Aaron allegedly tried to recruit Dennis himself, offering him a partnership in his new ventures if he would bring his car collection and connections to Aaron's projects instead of continuing to support Richard. Dennis's response? "I told him exactly what I thought of backstabbing friends, and it wasn't pretty." This attempted recruitment of Dennis Collins represents the ultimate betrayal, trying to turn Richard's closest friend and most valuable ally against him. It shows a level of calculated manipulation that goes far beyond simple creative differences or workplace disputes. This was corporate espionage disguised as friendship. The conversation between Dennis and Aaron, which Dennis recorded without Aaron's knowledge, reveals the true extent of Aaron's betrayal plans. He laid out his whole strategy, Dennis reveals. How he was going to use Richard's reputation to launch his own shows, how he was going to recruit the best people, how he was going to position himself as the real talent behind Gas Monkey's success. It was sickening. The timeline of betrayal that Dennis has documented shows that Aaron's deception began almost immediately after Fast and Loud became successful. While publicly expressing gratitude for Richard's mentorship and opportunities, Aaron was privately building relationships with agents, producers, and network executives who could help him launch his own career. Dennis reveals that Aaron had been secretly meeting with Discovery Channel executives for over 8 months before his departure, pitching show concepts that would directly compete with Fast and Loud. He was using inside information about Gas Monkey's upcoming projects to position his own shows, Dennis explains. He knew what Richard was planning, and he was designing his projects to steal viewers and sponsors. The immediate fallout was catastrophic. Once Dennis realized the extent of Aaron's deception, he immediately informed Richard, but by then the damage was already done. Aaron had already secured his deals, recruited his team, and prepared his public narrative about wanting creative freedom. The truth about his months of secret negotiations and employee recruitment would remain hidden until now. Dennis watched helplessly as Aaron executed his exit strategy with surgical precision, timing his departure to maximize his own opportunities while leaving Gas Monkey Garage, scrambling to replace not just his skills, but the entire network of relationships he had corrupted during his secret campaign. The social media explosion that followed Aaron's departure was carefully orchestrated, according to Dennis. Aaron's team had prepared talking points about creative restrictions and artistic integrity, while the real story, the months of secret deals and employee recruitment, remained buried. The automotive community rallied around Aaron as the misunderstood artist, never knowing they were supporting a calculated betrayal. Dennis reveals that he begged Richard to expose the truth about Aaron's secret negotiations, but Richard chose the high road, refusing to destroy Aaron's reputation even after being betrayed so completely. That's the difference between Richard and these people, Dennis explains. Richard has honor, even when dealing with people who have none. The evidence we're about to show you is so damning, you need to hype this video to help us expose the truth that powerful people want buried. Because Aaron Kaufman's betrayal wasn't an isolated incident, it was the blueprint that 4 other cast members would follow, each one learning from Aaron's success at manipulating the system while destroying the very foundation that made their careers possible. This revelation reframes everything about Aaron's departure and exposes the dark reality of how reality TV success can corrupt even the most talented individuals. The man who was celebrated as a mechanical genius and creative visionary was actually a master manipulator who used his position to build his own empire while systematically undermining the friend and mentor who had given him everything. The internet turned into detectives the moment Dennis Collins' explosive revelations started spreading, and what they uncovered makes Aaron Kaufman's betrayal look like child's play. Because once you know what to look for, the patterns become impossible to ignore. Every single one of these 10 departures follows the exact same playbook, a playbook that Dennis Collins now believes was deliberately shared among the cast members. Multiple insider sources have now confirmed what Dennis suspected all along. There was a secret network of Gas Monkey cast members who were actively coordinating their exit strategies, sharing information about contract negotiations, and even recommending the same agents and lawyers to maximize their leverage against Richard Rawlings and the show's producers. Dennis reveals that he first became suspicious when he noticed the same phrases appearing in different cast members' public statements about their departures. Creative differences, wanting more freedom, pursuing personal projects, these weren't coincidental similarities. These were coordinated talking points, designed to make their betrayals sound noble while hiding the calculated business moves happening behind the scenes. The evidence is overwhelming. Dennis has documented at least 7 instances where departing cast members used nearly identical language in their exit interviews and social media posts. This level of coordination doesn't happen by accident. It requires planning, communication, and a shared strategy for managing public perception while maximizing personal gain. But the coordination went far beyond just messaging. Dennis reveals that several cast members were sharing confidential information about Gas Monkey's business operations, upcoming projects, and contract details with competing production companies and potential business partners. This wasn't just disloyalty, this was industrial espionage happening right under Richard's nose. The secret communication network that Dennis uncovered included encrypted messaging apps, private social media groups, and even coded language in public communications. Cast members were using sophisticated methods to coordinate their betrayals while maintaining plausible deniability about their activities. Dennis reveals that he gained access to some of these communications through a former Gas Monkey employee who became disgusted with the betrayal network and decided to expose it. This person couldn't stand watching Richard get stabbed in the back by people he trusted, Dennis explains. Dennis has evidence that at least 3 of the 10 cast members he's exposing were secretly recording conversations with Richard and other Gas Monkey employees, building files of potentially embarrassing or legally problematic statements that could be used as leverage in future negotiations or public disputes. They were treating Richard's garage like their personal intelligence operation, Dennis explains with obvious disgust. Every conversation, every business meeting, every moment of trust was being weaponized against him. These people weren't just employees, they were corporate spies pretending to be friends. The recording operation was more extensive than anyone imagined. Dennis reveals that cast members were using hidden recording devices during production meetings, casual conversations, and even private moments when Richard thought he was speaking confidentially to trusted friends. The recordings were then shared among the Betrayal network and used to plan their exit strategies. Dennis has obtained copies of some of these recordings, which he describes as absolutely devastating to the people who made them. They recorded Richard being generous, being vulnerable, being human, Dennis explains. Then they used those recordings to plan how to hurt him most effectively. It's sociopathic behavior disguised as business strategy. The behind-the-scenes power struggles that Dennis witnessed were far more complex and vicious than anything shown on television. While the cameras captured the surface-level drama of deadlines and creative disagreements, the real battles were happening in lawyers' offices, agents' meetings, and secret phone calls where cast members were actively plotting against the show that made them famous. Dennis reveals that he personally witnessed several cast members attempting to recruit sponsors and business partners away from Gas Monkey Garage, using their television fame to build competing ventures while still under contract. This wasn't just planning for the future, this was active sabotage of Richard's business relationships. The sponsor recruitment operation was particularly insidious, according to Dennis. Cast members would attend industry events and trade shows as representatives of Gas Monkey Garage, then use those opportunities to pitch their own future projects to sponsors and vendors. They were essentially using Richard's reputation and relationships to build their own competing businesses. They would go to SEMA or other industry events wearing Gas Monkey shirts representing Richard's brand, then spend the whole time trying to steal his sponsors for their own projects, Dennis reveals. It was the ultimate betrayal, using his reputation to destroy his business relationships. The financial implications are staggering. Dennis estimates that the coordinated departures and subsequent competition from spin-off shows and rival garages cost Gas Monkey Garage millions of dollars in lost revenue, damaged relationships, and legal fees. Richard didn't just lose employees, Dennis explains. He lost years of relationship building, millions in potential revenue, and worst of all, his faith in people he considered family. But the most devastating impact wasn't financial, it was personal. Dennis watched his best friend struggle with the realization that people he had mentored, supported, and treated like family had been systematically betraying him for months or even years. The psychological toll of discovering that your closest collaborators have been secretly working against you is something that Dennis says Richard is still processing today. The legal ramifications of these coordinated departures are still unfolding, according to Dennis. Several of the cast members may have violated non-compete clauses, confidentiality agreements, and fiduciary duties during their secret exit planning. Dennis hints that Richard has been advised by lawyers to pursue legal action, but has chosen not to, preferring to focus on building rather than destroying. Documents obtained by Dennis show a pattern of contract violations, breach of confidentiality, and potential fraud that could have resulted in millions of dollars in damages if Richard had chosen to pursue aggressive legal action. The fact that he didn't pursue these cases, according to Dennis, shows the difference between Richard's character and that of the people who betrayed him. The network of betrayal extended beyond just the 10 cast members Dennis is exposing. He reveals that several behind-the-scenes employees, including producers and crew members, were also involved in the coordination, sharing inside information, and helping to facilitate the secret meetings and negotiations that made these betrayals possible. It was like a cancer, Dennis explains. Once it started, it spread through the entire organization. People who had been loyal for years suddenly started questioning their own situations, wondering if they were missing out on opportunities, getting recruited by the people who were already planning their exits. The production company involvement in these betrayals is particularly shocking, according to Dennis. He reveals that certain producers and network executives were aware of the cast members' secret negotiations and may have even encouraged them as a way to create additional content and spin-off opportunities. Some of these producers were playing both sides, Dennis reveals. They were encouraging the betrayals because it created more shows for them to produce. They didn't care about the damage it was doing to Richard or Gas Monkey, they just saw dollar signs. The most shocking discovery: Dennis has evidence that at least one major automotive industry publication was being fed inside information by departing cast members, allowing them to publish exclusive stories about Gas Monkey's internal problems, while the people providing the information were still on the payroll. This level of media manipulation shows a sophistication that goes far beyond simple workplace disputes. These were coordinated public relations campaigns designed to damage Gas Monkey's reputation while building sympathy for the departing cast members, all orchestrated by people who were still pretending to be loyal employees. The media manipulation campaign included planted stories about Richard's management style, leaked information about internal conflicts, and coordinated social media campaigns designed to shift public opinion in favor of the departing cast members. Dennis has evidence showing that this campaign was planned months in advance and executed with military precision. They had a whole PR strategy, Dennis explains. They knew exactly when to leak certain stories, how to frame the narrative, and which media outlets would be most sympathetic to their version of events. It was a professional character assassination disguised as journalism. But that's not even the most shocking part of Dennis Collins's nuclear exposé. What he's about to reveal will completely reframe how you understand the entire Fast and Loud phenomenon and expose a level of betrayal so calculated, so vicious, that it makes everything we've discussed so far look like minor workplace disagreements. The devastating truth that changes everything. Christy Brimberry's departure wasn't primarily about her health battles with thyroid cancer, as the public was led to believe. According to Dennis Collins's explosive revelations, Christy had been secretly documenting Gas Monkey's financial operations for months before her diagnosis, building a comprehensive file of potentially damaging information that she planned to use as leverage in her own business ventures. Dennis reveals that he discovered Christy's secret documentation operation purely by accident when he witnessed her photographing confidential financial documents during a routine visit to the garage. "I couldn't believe what I was seeing," Dennis explains. This woman, who Richard trusted with everything, who handled all the money and knew every secret, was systematically building a case file against him. The evidence is absolutely devastating. Dennis claims that Christy had been copying client lists, financial records, vendor contracts, and internal communications for at least 6 months before her cancer diagnosis. This wasn't casual record keeping. This was systematic intelligence gathering that could have destroyed Gas Monkey Garage if used maliciously. But the betrayal goes even deeper. Dennis reveals that Christy wasn't working alone in this operation. She had been coordinating with several of the other departing cast members, sharing financial information that helped them understand exactly how much money Gas Monkey was making and how they could position themselves to capture a larger share of that revenue. The financial intelligence operation was sophisticated and comprehensive, according to Dennis. Christy had access to every aspect of Gas Monkey's financial operations, from individual project budgets to overall revenue streams, and she was systematically documenting all of it for use by the Betrayal network. She knew every number, every deal, every weakness in Richard's business, Dennis explains, and she was sharing all of that information with people who were planning to compete against him. It was the ultimate insider threat. The person who controlled the money was working for the enemy. The most shocking revelation: Christy allegedly used her position as office manager to facilitate secret meetings between departing cast members and competing production companies, essentially turning Gas Monkey's own offices into a recruitment center for rival shows and businesses. She was the inside person, Dennis explains with obvious anger. While Richard was dealing with the public drama of cast members leaving, Christy was behind the scenes, making sure they had all the information they needed to compete against him effectively. She was the ultimate insider threat. Dennis reveals that Christy had been using her access to Gas Monkey's scheduling systems to arrange meetings between cast members and outside parties during times when Richard would be away from the garage. She was essentially running a parallel operation designed to undermine the business she was supposed to be protecting. The coordination with other betrayers was extensive and well documented, according to Dennis. Christy had been sharing detailed financial analyses with Aaron Kaufman and others, helping them understand exactly how much money they could potentially make if they successfully launched competing ventures. She gave them the roadmap, Dennis reveals. She showed them exactly how Gas Monkey made money, who the most valuable clients were, which projects were most profitable, and how they could replicate that success in their own businesses. It was corporate espionage at the highest level. Dennis reveals that when Christy's cancer diagnosis became public, he initially felt guilty for suspecting her of betrayal, thinking that her illness might explain any unusual behavior he had witnessed. But continued investigation revealed that her documentation operation had begun months before any health issues, suggesting that her betrayal was calculated and deliberate, not influenced by medical stress. The timing of her departure becomes even more suspicious when viewed through this lens. Dennis suggests that Christy may have accelerated her exit strategy when she realized that her secret activities were being noticed, using her health situation as cover for what was actually a strategic retreat before her betrayal could be fully exposed. New evidence emerges that Dennis has been holding back until now. Recorded phone conversations where Christy can allegedly be heard discussing Gas Monkey's financial vulnerabilities with people outside the organization. These recordings, if authentic, would prove that her betrayal wasn't just about gathering information. It was about actively sharing that information with competitors. I have her voice on tape talking about Richard's business like it was her own personal intelligence operation, Dennis claims. She knew every weakness, every financial pressure point, every relationship that could be exploited, and she was sharing all of it with people who wanted to destroy what Richard had built. The recorded conversations that Dennis has obtained allegedly include discussions about specific client relationships, upcoming project budgets, and strategic vulnerabilities that could be exploited by competitors. The level of detail in these conversations suggests that Christy had been systematically analyzing Gas Monkey's operations for the specific purpose of helping competitors. She wasn't just sharing information, Dennis explains. She was providing strategic analysis, telling these people exactly how to hurt Richard's business most effectively. It was like having an enemy general with access to all your battle plans. The ripple effects of Christy's alleged betrayal were catastrophic for Gas Monkey's internal security. Once Dennis realized that the person handling all financial operations was potentially compromised, every business relationship, every contract, and every financial decision had to be questioned and potentially restructured. Dennis reveals that Richard was forced to conduct a complete audit of Gas Monkey's financial operations after Christy's departure, not just to ensure accuracy, but to determine what information might have been compromised and what damage control measures were necessary. The cost of this audit and the subsequent security measures ran into hundreds of thousands of dollars. The most damaging aspect of Christy's alleged betrayal was the violation of trust it represented. As office manager, she had access to information that even close friends like Dennis weren't privy to. Her position required absolute loyalty and discretion, making her alleged betrayal not just a business problem, but a fundamental violation of the trust that made Gas Monkey Garage function as a family business. Key players' desperate responses to Dennis's revelations have been swift and telling. Several of the people he's exposing have already begun reaching out to mutual contacts, trying to control the narrative and minimize the damage to their reputations. But Dennis isn't backing down. He's doubling down with even more evidence. They thought they could hide behind their public images forever. Dennis explains, they thought Richard would never speak up, and they thought I would stay quiet to protect my friend's business. They were wrong on both counts. The truth is coming out, and there's nothing they can do to stop it now. The legal implications of Christy's alleged activities are particularly serious, according to Dennis. The unauthorized copying and sharing of confidential financial information could constitute multiple felonies, including corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, and fraud. Dennis hints that federal investigators may already be looking into these activities. Your hype points are literally helping us fund more investigations like this. Hit that button if you want us to keep digging deeper. Because what Dennis Collins is revealing about Christy Brimberry is just the beginning. The financial documents, the recorded conversations, and the evidence of coordinated betrayal paint a picture of systematic corporate espionage that goes far beyond anything the automotive reality TV world has ever seen. Public opinion is shifting dramatically as these revelations spread through social media and automotive forums. People who once viewed these departures as unfortunate but understandable career moves are now seeing them as calculated betrayals that damaged not just a business, but a man who had treated his employees like family The narrative is changing from talented people seeking better opportunities to ungrateful employees systematically betraying their mentor and friend. And Dennis Collins has the evidence to prove that the second narrative is the accurate one. This isn't just about Gas Monkey Garage anymore. Dennis Collins' explosive revelations have sent shockwaves through the entire automotive reality TV industry, exposing a pattern of betrayal and manipulation that threatens to destroy the trust between producers, stars, and networks that the entire genre depends on. Industry-wide panic has set in as network executives realize that the coordinated betrayal tactics used against Richard Rawlings could be deployed against any successful show. The revelation that cast members were secretly recording conversations, sharing confidential information, and coordinating their exit strategies has forced every automotive reality show to reevaluate their security protocols and trust relationships. Dennis reveals that he's been contacted by producers from at least 6 other automotive shows, all asking for advice on how to identify and prevent the kind of systematic betrayal that destroyed Gas Monkey's original team. They're all scared, Dennis explains. They realize that if it could happen to Richard, it could happen to anyone. The paranoia spreading through Hollywood is palpable, according to Dennis. Producers are now viewing their own cast members with suspicion, wondering who might be secretly recording conversations or sharing confidential information with competitors. The family atmosphere that made many reality shows successful is being replaced by corporate-level security measures and legal protections. The whole industry is changing, Dennis observes. Shows that used to operate on trust and handshake deals are now requiring extensive legal documentation, security protocols, and surveillance measures. The betrayers didn't just hurt Richard, they poisoned the well for everyone. The legal implications are staggering across the industry. Entertainment lawyers are reporting a massive increase in requests for stronger non-disclosure agreements, non-compete clauses, and surveillance provisions in reality TV contracts. The days of handshake deals and family-style trust relationships may be over, replaced by corporate-level security measures and legal protections. But the most significant impact may be on the authenticity that made automotive reality TV appealing in the first place. Dennis warns that the industry's response to these betrayals could destroy the very qualities that made shows like Fast and Loud successful. If everyone's worried about being recorded and betrayed, how can you have real relationships? How can you build the kind of trust that makes great television? The authenticity crisis that Dennis describes is already becoming apparent in newer automotive reality shows. Cast members are more guarded, conversations feel scripted, and the spontaneous moments that made earlier shows compelling are becoming increasingly rare. The fear of betrayal is killing the very authenticity that audiences crave. Viewers can sense when people are being fake, Dennis explains. They can tell when cast members are holding back, when conversations are calculated rather than genuine. The betrayers didn't just hurt Richard, they're destroying the entire genre by making authentic relationships impossible. Other celebrities and figures in the automotive world are already feeling the effects of Dennis's revelations. Several high-profile mechanics and shop owners have publicly distanced themselves from the cast members Dennis is exposing, not wanting to be associated with the betrayal tactics that are now being exposed. The automotive community, which has always prided itself on loyalty and mutual support, is grappling with the realization that some of its most visible figures were engaged in systematic deception and betrayal. This has created a crisis of trust that extends far beyond television into the broader automotive culture. The cultural impact on the automotive community has been profound and immediate. Car shows, trade events, and industry gatherings have become tense affairs, where people are questioning long-standing relationships and wondering who else might be engaged in similar betrayal tactics. The whole community is looking over their shoulders now, Dennis reveals. People who used to share information freely are now wondering if that information will be used against them. The spirit of collaboration that built this community is being replaced by suspicion and paranoia. The financial impact on the industry is already becoming apparent. Dennis reveals that several planned automotive reality shows have been canceled or postponed as networks reassess the risks of working with personalities who might employ similar betrayal tactics. The cost of additional legal protections and security measures is making some projects financially unviable. They've poisoned the well, Dennis explains. Networks are so worried about being betrayed that they're not willing to take the risks that create great television. The people who betrayed Richard didn't just hurt him, they hurt everyone in the industry who depends on trust and authenticity to make their living. The insurance and bonding crisis that has emerged is particularly devastating for smaller production companies. Insurance companies are now requiring extensive background checks, psychological evaluations, and financial guarantees before they'll cover reality TV productions. The cost of these requirements is pricing many independent producers out of the market entirely. Dennis reveals that at least 3 major automotive reality shows have been canceled, not because of poor ratings or lack of interest, but because the insurance and legal costs associated with protecting against betrayal have made the projects financially impossible. The betrayers created a new category of business risk that the industry wasn't prepared for, Dennis explains. The cultural implications extend beyond just the automotive world. Dennis's revelations have become a case study in how reality TV success can corrupt individuals and destroy the very relationships that made success possible. Business schools are already using the gas monkey betrayals as examples of how not to manage talent and maintain loyalty in high-pressure environments. The story has resonated with audiences far beyond automotive enthusiasts because it represents a fundamental betrayal of American values like loyalty, friendship, and fair dealing. People are seeing the gas monkey betrayals as a microcosm of broader cultural problems, with greed, disloyalty, and the corruption that can come with fame and success. The academic interest in Dennis's revelations has been surprising and extensive. Business schools, psychology departments, and media studies programs are analyzing the gas monkey betrayals as case studies in organizational behavior, media manipulation, and the psychology of betrayal. Professors are using this story to teach students about the importance of character in business relationships, Dennis reveals. They're showing how short-term thinking and betrayal tactics ultimately destroy long-term success. It's become a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing individual gain over collective success. Social media platforms have been flooded with discussions about the ethics of the tactics Dennis is exposing. The revelation that cast members were secretly recording conversations and sharing confidential information has sparked debates about privacy, loyalty, and the responsibilities that come with being trusted with sensitive information. The hashtag number #GasMonkeyBetrayal has been trending across multiple platforms, with thousands of people sharing their own stories of workplace betrayal and expressing support for Richard Rawlings and Dennis Collins. The public response has been overwhelmingly supportive of Dennis's decision to break his silence and expose the truth. The viral nature of Dennis's revelations has surprised even him. "I thought this would be of interest mainly to automotive people," Dennis admits. "But it's resonated with everyone who's ever been betrayed by someone they trusted." The response has been overwhelming. The story has been covered by major news outlets, business publications, and entertainment media, reaching audiences far beyond the typical automotive reality TV demographic. The universal themes of loyalty, betrayal, and justice have made it a cultural phenomenon that transcends its automotive origins. The impact on spin-off shows and competing garages has been immediate and devastating. Several businesses that were built by former Gas Monkey cast members are now facing boycotts and public criticism as people learn about the betrayal tactics that were used to launch these ventures. Dennis reveals that at least 2 spin-off shows have already been canceled, as networks distance themselves from the controversy. The people who thought they were so smart, who thought they could build their careers on betraying Richard, are finding out that the public doesn't support that kind of behavior. The boycott movement that has emerged organically from Dennis's revelations has been more effective than any organized campaign could have been. Automotive enthusiasts are simply choosing not to support businesses and shows associated with the betrayers, and their collective action is having a significant financial impact. "It's not organized or coordinated," Dennis explains. "People are just making individual decisions not to support betrayers. But when thousands of people make the same individual decision, it has the same effect as an organized boycott." The automotive parts and services industry is also feeling the effects as suppliers and vendors reassess their relationships with various shops and personalities. Several major companies have quietly ended sponsorship deals with figures associated with the betrayals Dennis is exposing, not wanting their brands associated with disloyalty and deception. It's not just about television anymore, Dennis explains. These betrayals have damaged the entire ecosystem of trust that the automotive industry depends on. Suppliers don't know who they can trust, customers don't know who's authentic, and everyone's looking over their shoulder wondering who might be recording their conversations. The supplier network disruption has been particularly damaging for the betrayers. Many of the relationships they thought they could leverage in their new ventures have evaporated as suppliers choose to maintain their relationships with Richard rather than risk association with people known for betrayal. Dennis reveals that several major automotive parts suppliers have implemented new policies requiring background checks and character references before entering into sponsorship or partnership agreements. The betrayers didn't just hurt their own reputations, Dennis explains. They made it harder for everyone in the industry to build the trust relationships that business depends on. The long-term consequences for the individuals Dennis is exposing are still unfolding, but early indicators suggest that their reputations may never recover from these revelations. The automotive community has a long memory for betrayal, and the evidence Dennis is presenting is too comprehensive and credible to dismiss or explain away. Several industry insiders predict that the people Dennis is exposing will find it increasingly difficult to secure new projects, sponsorships, or business partnerships as the full extent of their betrayal tactics becomes known. They thought they were building their futures, Dennis observes. Instead, they were destroying them. The generational impact of these betrayals is particularly concerning to Dennis. Young people entering the automotive industry are learning that betrayal and manipulation can be rewarded with television shows and business opportunities, while loyalty and integrity are taken for granted and undervalued. We're teaching the wrong lessons, Dennis warns. If young people see that betrayal leads to success while loyalty leads to being taken advantage of, what kind of industry are we building for the future? The betrayers didn't just hurt Richard, they're corrupting the values that built this community. Where everyone stands now is a testament to the old saying that character is destiny. While Richard Rawlings has continued to build and innovate, expanding his empire with new ventures like his $500,000 food truck and the Monkey Trap podcast, the 10 individuals Dennis Collins is exposing have seen their careers follow dramatically different trajectories and not in the ways they expected when they executed their betrayal strategies. Dennis reveals that Richard's response to these systematic betrayals has been characteristically classy, but strategically brilliant. Instead of engaging in public feuds or legal battles, Richard has focused on building new relationships and creating opportunities for loyal team members. Richard understood something these betrayers didn't, Dennis explains. Success isn't about tearing others down, it's about building something so strong that betrayal can't destroy it. The current status of Aaron Kaufman is particularly telling and serves as a cautionary tale about the long-term consequences of betrayal. While his initial post-Gas Monkey ventures like Shifting Gears and Aaron Needs a Job generated some attention, Dennis reveals that Aaron has struggled to maintain the level of success he achieved while benefiting from Richard's platform and resources. He thought he was the star, Dennis observes with a mixture of sadness and vindication. He found out he was just part of a much bigger machine. Without Richard's reputation, connections, and business acumen behind him, Aaron discovered that talent alone isn't enough to build a sustainable empire. Dennis has evidence that Aaron's current projects are facing significant financial challenges, with several planned ventures being canceled or scaled back due to lack of network support and sponsor interest. The automotive community's growing awareness of his betrayal tactics has made it increasingly difficult for him to secure the kind of partnerships and opportunities he enjoyed while at Gas Monkey. The network rejection that Aaron has experienced is particularly devastating, according to Dennis. The same executives who were eager to work with him when he was Richard's protege are now avoiding his calls, Dennis reveals. They've realized that his success was largely dependent on Richard's reputation and relationships, not his individual talent. The ratings for Aaron's independent shows have been consistently disappointing, and Dennis reveals that at least 2 major networks have declined to renew contracts with Aaron, despite initial enthusiasm for his projects. The audience can sense authenticity, Dennis explains. They know the difference between someone who's genuinely passionate about cars and someone who's just trying to capitalize on their television fame. Christy Brimberry's situation is even more complex and tragic. While she successfully battled cancer and recovered her health, Dennis reveals that her reputation in the automotive business community has been permanently damaged by the revelations about her alleged intelligence-gathering activities. Health battles deserve sympathy and support. Dennis explains with genuine compassion. Betrayal doesn't. Christy's cancer was real and serious, and everyone supported her through that. But the betrayal was also real, and that can't be excused by medical issues. Dennis claims that several business ventures Christy was involved in after leaving Gas Monkey have failed or been abandoned as partners learned about her alleged activities. The automotive community's emphasis on trust and loyalty has made it nearly impossible for her to rebuild the kind of relationships necessary for long-term success. The isolation that Christy now faces in the automotive community is profound, according to Dennis. People who used to trust her with their most sensitive business information now won't even return her phone calls, Dennis reveals. Once you're known as someone who betrays confidences, it's almost impossible to rebuild that trust. The fates of Tom Smith and Jordan Butler serve as cautionary tales about the long-term consequences of betrayal and the toxic dynamics that betrayal creates. While their spin-off show, Misfit Garage, initially seemed like a successful revenge against Richard, Dennis reveals that the show's cancellation was directly related to the toxic dynamics and trust issues that the cast members brought from their Gas Monkey experiences. You can't build something positive on a foundation of betrayal and resentment, Dennis explains with the wisdom of someone who's watched these dynamics play out over years. Misfit Garage failed because the people involved never learned how to work together without scheming against each other. They brought their Gas Monkey betrayal tactics to their new show, and it poisoned everything they tried to build. Dennis reveals that the internal conflicts on Misfit Garage were even worse than what had happened at Gas Monkey, with cast members constantly suspicious of each other and unable to build the trust necessary for effective collaboration. They created a culture of paranoia and betrayal, then wondered why they couldn't succeed, Dennis observes. The financial failure of Misfit Garage was particularly devastating for Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, who had invested significant personal resources in the venture based on their confidence that they could replicate Gas Monkey's success. Dennis reveals that both men are now facing serious financial difficulties as a result of the show's failure and their inability to secure new opportunities. They thought betraying Richard was their ticket to independence and success, Dennis explains. Instead, it was their ticket to failure and isolation. The automotive community doesn't forget betrayal, and it doesn't reward it either. Scott McMillan's early departure from Gas Monkey now looks prescient rather than disloyal, according to Dennis's analysis. Scott saw the writing on the wall, Dennis reveals. He got out before the betrayal culture really took hold, and he's been the most successful of all the departures because he left with his integrity intact. Dennis reveals that Scott's shop, Scott Rod's Garage, has thrived specifically because Scott maintained professional relationships and didn't engage in the systematic betrayal tactics that characterize the other departures. Scott proved that you can leave a job without destroying relationships or betraying trust, Dennis observes with genuine respect. The contrast between Scott's success and the failures of the other departing cast members is stark and instructive. While Aaron, Christy, Tom, and Jordan have all struggled with the long-term consequences of their betrayal tactics, Scott has built a successful business based on the same values of integrity and craftsmanship that originally made Gas Monkey successful. Scott's success proves that the problem wasn't Gas Monkey or Richard, Dennis explains. The problem was the character of the people who chose betrayal over loyalty. Scott chose differently, and his success reflects that choice. Latest developments continue to vindicate Dennis's decision to break his silence. Several automotive industry publications have begun investigating the claims Dennis is making, and early reports suggest that his evidence is both credible and comprehensive. The revelation that cast members were secretly recording conversations has prompted at least one criminal investigation into potential wiretapping violations. Dennis reveals that he's been contacted by federal investigators who are interested in the financial aspects of the betrayals, particularly the sharing of confidential business information and the potential violations of contract law. This isn't just about hurt feelings anymore, Dennis explains with satisfaction. There may be serious legal consequences for some of these people. The federal investigation that Dennis hints at could have far-reaching implications for the entire reality TV industry. If cast members are found to have violated federal laws regarding corporate espionage, wiretapping, or fraud, it could establish legal precedents that fundamentally change how reality TV contracts are structured and enforced. The government is taking this seriously, Dennis reveals. They understand that if people can systematically betray their employers and steal confidential information without consequences, it undermines the entire foundation of business relationships in America. The ongoing legal ramifications are still unfolding, but Dennis hints that Richard has been building a comprehensive legal case for years, documenting every betrayal and contract violation while publicly maintaining his dignity and professionalism. Richard's not vindictive, Dennis explains, but he's not stupid either. He's been keeping records, and if these people push too far, they're going to find out that there are consequences for betrayal. This is the kind of content that changes industries. Show your support by hyping this video so more people see what's really happening. The automotive reality TV world is watching Dennis's revelations closely, understanding that the precedent being set here will determine how trust and loyalty are valued in future projects. The current dynamics at Gas Monkey Garage reflect the lessons learned from these betrayals. Dennis reveals that Richard has implemented new security protocols, legal protections, and relationship management strategies designed to prevent future betrayals, while still maintaining the family atmosphere that made the garage special. Richard learned that trust has to be earned and verified, Dennis explains. He's still the same generous, loyal person he always was, but he's not naive anymore. He understands that some people will try to exploit kindness and loyalty for their own gain. The security measures that Richard has implemented include comprehensive background checks for all employees, regular legal reviews of contracts and confidentiality agreements, and sophisticated monitoring systems to detect potential betrayal activities before they can cause damage. It's sad that it's necessary, Dennis admits, but Richard can't afford to be betrayed again. He's built something too valuable to let it be destroyed by people who don't understand the value of loyalty and integrity. The broader automotive community has rallied around Richard and Dennis as these revelations have spread. Major industry figures have publicly expressed support for their decision to expose the truth about these betrayals, understanding that the integrity of the entire community depends on holding people accountable for their actions. Dennis reveals that he's received hundreds of messages from people in the automotive industry, sharing their own stories of betrayal and expressing gratitude for his willingness to speak out. People are tired of seeing good people get taken advantage of, Dennis explains. They want to see consequences for betrayal and rewards for loyalty. The community support has been overwhelming and has reinforced Dennis's belief that he made the right decision in breaking his silence. I was worried that people might think I was just being vindictive or petty, Dennis admits, but the response has shown me that people understand the difference between justice and revenge. The financial recovery of Gas Monkey Garage from these betrayals has been remarkable, according to Dennis. By focusing on building new relationships and creating opportunities for loyal team members, Richard has not only recovered from the financial damage caused by the betrayals, but has actually grown stronger and more successful. The people who betrayed Richard thought they were taking something from him, Dennis observes with satisfaction. Instead, they freed him from relationships that were holding him back. He's more successful now than he ever was when he was dealing with their schemes and betrayals. What's coming next will determine whether the automotive reality TV industry learns from the Gas Monkey betrayals or continues to enable the kind of systematic deception that Dennis Collins has exposed. The precedent being set by Dennis's revelations and the industry's response will shape how trust, loyalty, and professional relationships are managed in future projects for decades to come. Dennis predicts that the automotive reality TV landscape will split into two distinct categories: shows that prioritize authentic relationships and long-term trust, and shows that accept the risk of betrayal in exchange for short-term drama and ratings. The industry has to choose. Dennis explains with the gravity of someone who's seen both paths. Do you want real relationships that create lasting success, or do you want manufactured drama that destroys everything it touches? The legal consequences for the individuals Dennis has exposed are still unfolding, but he predicts that at least 2 of them will face serious legal challenges within the next year. The evidence of contract violations, confidentiality breaches, and potential fraud is too comprehensive to ignore, and Dennis believes that Richard's patience with their continued attacks on his reputation is finally reaching its limit. Richard's been taking the high road for years. Dennis reveals with a mixture of admiration and anticipation, but there's a difference between being classy and being a doormat. If these people keep pushing, they're going to find out that there are real consequences for betrayal and fraud. Dennis hints that Richard has been quietly building legal cases against multiple former cast members, documenting every contract violation, every breach of confidentiality, and every instance of corporate espionage. He's got lawyers who specialize in entertainment law, corporate espionage, and fraud. Dennis reveals, they've been building airtight cases for years, just waiting for the right moment to strike. The criminal investigations that Dennis has alluded to are apparently more advanced than anyone realizes. He reveals that federal authorities have been quietly investigating the systematic recording of conversations, the theft of confidential business information, and the coordinated efforts to damage Gas Monkey's business relationships. This isn't just civil litigation anymore, Dennis explains with obvious satisfaction. When you systematically record people without their consent, steal confidential business information, and coordinate efforts to damage someone's business, you've crossed the line from workplace disputes into criminal activity. Dennis also predicts that the automotive community will implement new standards for professional conduct and relationship management, using the Gas Monkey betrayals as a cautionary tale about the importance of loyalty and integrity in business relationships. This story is going to be taught in business schools, Dennis observes. It's a perfect example of how betrayal ultimately destroys the betrayers more than their victims. The industry transformation that Dennis foresees will fundamentally change how automotive reality TV shows are produced, cast, and managed. He predicts that networks will implement comprehensive psychological evaluations, extensive background checks, and sophisticated monitoring systems to identify potential betrayers before they can cause damage. The days of trusting people based on handshakes and good intentions are over, Dennis explains. The betrayers have forced the industry to become more corporate, more suspicious, and more legally protected. They've killed the family atmosphere that made these shows special. Unresolved mysteries continue to emerge as Dennis's revelations spread through the automotive community. He hints that there are additional cast members and behind-the-scenes figures whose betrayal activities haven't been fully exposed yet, suggesting that the 10 departures he's discussed are just the beginning of a much larger story. There are more people involved in this than I've talked about so far, Dennis reveals ominously. Some of them are still in the industry, still pretending to be trustworthy, still looking for their next opportunity to betray someone's trust. The automotive community needs to know who these people are. Dennis suggests that his next series of revelations will expose the role that agents, managers, and production company executives played in encouraging and facilitating the betrayals. The cast members were just the visible part of this, Dennis explains. There were people behind the scenes who were coaching them, encouraging them, and helping them execute these betrayals. The agent and manager network that facilitated these betrayals is apparently extensive and sophisticated, according to Dennis. He claims to have evidence showing that certain talent representatives were actively encouraging their clients to betray their employers as a way to create leverage for better deals and spin-off opportunities. These agents and managers saw the betrayals as business opportunities, Dennis reveals with disgust. They didn't care about the damage they were causing to Richard or Gas Monkey. They just saw dollar signs and commission opportunities. Dennis also suggests that there may be evidence of coordination between the Gas Monkey betrayers and similar betrayal networks in other reality TV shows, indicating that the tactics used against Richard may be part of a broader pattern of systematic deception in the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry conspiracy that Dennis is hinting at could be the most explosive revelation yet. If he can prove that there's a coordinated network of agents, managers, and production executives who are systematically encouraging cast members to betray their employers, it could trigger a massive scandal that reaches far beyond automotive reality TV. This isn't just about cars or television, Dennis warns. This is about a fundamental corruption in how the entertainment industry operates. If people can systematically betray their employers and steal confidential information without consequences, it undermines the entire foundation of business relationships in America. Potential future revelations that Dennis is considering include recorded conversations between agents and cast members discussing betrayal strategies, financial documents showing how betrayals were monetized, and witness testimony from production company insiders who were pressured to facilitate the betrayals. I've got recordings of agents literally coaching their clients on how to betray Richard most effectively, Dennis claims. They were treating his garage like a training ground for corporate espionage, teaching people how to steal information and damage relationships for personal gain. Dennis hints that he's been contacted by cast members from other automotive reality shows who have experienced similar betrayals, suggesting that the gas monkey situation may be part of a much larger pattern of systematic deception in the industry. Richard wasn't the only victim, Dennis reveals. There are other good people who've been betrayed by people they trusted, and their stories need to be told too. The broader pattern of betrayal that Dennis is uncovering apparently extends to multiple reality TV shows across different networks and production companies. He suggests that the same agents, managers, and production executives who facilitated the gas monkey betrayals have been using similar tactics on other shows. It's like a virus, Dennis explains. Once these people figured out how to monetize betrayal, they started spreading the tactics to other shows and other clients. They've created an entire business model based on destroying trust and loyalty. The ultimate vindication for Richard Rawlings and Dennis Collins will come when the full extent of the betrayals is revealed, and the automotive community sees the complete picture of what they endured while maintaining their dignity and professionalism. Dennis predicts that this vindication will lead to new opportunities and partnerships that will make Gas Monkey Garage stronger than ever. The truth always comes out eventually, Dennis observes, with the confidence of someone who's been patient for years. Richard and I have been patient because we knew that time would prove who was right and who was wrong. That time is coming, and the people who betrayed us are going to face the consequences of their choices. Dennis predicts that the full revelation of the betrayal network will trigger a massive cleanup in the automotive reality TV industry, with networks, production companies, and talent agencies implementing new policies and procedures to prevent similar betrayals in the future. The industry cleanup that Dennis foresees will be comprehensive and permanent. He predicts that several major talent agencies will face federal investigations, multiple production companies will implement new security protocols, and networks will require extensive legal protections before working with reality TV personalities. The betrayers thought they were just hurting Richard, Dennis explains. They didn't realize they were destroying the entire foundation of trust that the industry depends on. The cleanup is going to be massive, and it's going to be permanent. The broader cultural impact of Dennis's revelations extends far beyond the automotive world, serving as a reminder that loyalty, integrity, and professional conduct still matter, in an era where betrayal and self-promotion often seem to be rewarded. Dennis believes that the public's overwhelmingly positive response to his decision to speak out shows that people are hungry for authentic relationships and genuine accountability. People are tired of seeing good people get taken advantage of, Dennis explains with passion. They want to see loyalty rewarded and betrayal punished. That's what this story is really about, the importance of character and integrity in a world that often seems to have forgotten those values. Dennis predicts that his revelations will inspire other victims of systematic betrayal to come forward with their own stories, creating a movement for accountability and integrity in business relationships across multiple industries. The accountability movement that Dennis hopes to inspire could have far-reaching implications beyond just the entertainment industry. He believes that his willingness to speak out despite personal and professional risks will encourage others to expose similar betrayals in their own industries and communities. If we don't hold people accountable for betrayal, we're essentially rewarding it, Dennis explains. That sends the message that loyalty and integrity don't matter, that success justifies any behavior. That's not the kind of world I want to live in or leave for future generations. We're about to reveal the most shocking part, but first, if this expose has blown your mind, give it the hype it deserves, because Dennis Collins isn't done talking. He's promised additional revelations that will expose even more layers of the betrayal conspiracy, including evidence that some of the people he's already exposed are still actively working to damage Richard's reputation and business. The ongoing attacks that Dennis references are apparently more sophisticated and coordinated than anyone realizes. He claims that several of the former cast members are still actively working to undermine Gas Monkey Garage through social media manipulation, industry gossip campaigns, and attempts to recruit current employees. They can't let it go, Dennis explains with a mixture of amazement and disgust. Even after all these years, even after their own failures, they're still trying to hurt Richard. It's like they're addicted to betrayal and destruction. Dennis reveals that he's been documenting these ongoing attacks and building evidence for additional legal action. Richard's been patient, but there's a limit to how much harassment and defamation he's going to tolerate, Dennis warns. Final community engagement has been overwhelming, with thousands of automotive enthusiasts, business owners, and reality TV fans expressing support for Dennis's decision to break his silence and expose the truth about these betrayals. The response has convinced Dennis that he made the right choice in speaking out, despite the personal cost and potential legal risks. The automotive community deserves to know the truth about these people, Dennis concludes with conviction. They deserve to know who they can trust and who they can't. That's why I'm telling this story, and that's why I'm not going to stop until the whole truth comes out. The subscription drive that Dennis is launching will fund additional investigations into betrayal networks in the automotive industry, with the goal of protecting other shop owners and television personalities from experiencing what Richard Rawlings endured. We're going to make sure this never happens to anyone else, Dennis promises. Dennis reveals that he's already been contacted by several other automotive industry figures who have experienced similar betrayals and want to share their stories. This is bigger than just Gas Monkey, Dennis explains. This is about cleaning up an entire industry and restoring the values of loyalty and integrity that built the automotive community. The investigative fund that Dennis is establishing will provide resources for legal action against betrayers, support for victims of systematic betrayal, and educational programs to help people identify and prevent betrayal tactics before they can cause damage. We're not just exposing the problem, Dennis explains. We're building solutions. We're creating resources to help good people protect themselves from betrayers and hold bad actors accountable for their actions. The final hook that will keep audiences coming back for more. Dennis Collins has promised that this expose is just the beginning. He's planning a series of revelations that will expose additional layers of the betrayal, conspiracy, including evidence of coordination with other reality TV betrayals, and the role of industry professionals in facilitating these systematic deceptions. This story isn't over, Dennis warns with the intensity of someone who's been building toward this moment for years. In fact, we're just getting started. The people who thought they could betray Richard and get away with it are about to learn that the truth always comes out, and justice always finds a way. Dennis promises that his next revelations will include recorded conversations between betrayers and their handlers, financial documents showing how betrayals were monetized, and testimony from industry insiders who were pressured to participate in the conspiracy. The promise of more revelations ensures that audiences will return for future episodes, while the comprehensive nature of Dennis's evidence guarantees that the story will continue to evolve and expand. The automotive world will never be the same after Dennis Collins' nuclear revelations, and the 10 cast members he's exposed will spend the rest of their careers dealing with the consequences of their betrayals. But for Richard Rawlings, Dennis Collins, and everyone who values loyalty and integrity, this is just the beginning of a new chapter built on truth, accountability, and the kind of authentic relationships that make great television and lasting success possible. The betrayers thought they were destroying Richard's empire, but instead, they freed him to build something even stronger, a legacy based on character, integrity, and the unbreakable bonds of genuine friendship.